We go. Right, I am ready. So welcome everybody and thank you for attending my session. How is everybody? Okay, I hope everyone is well wherever you may be. I would like to encourage you to take part using the chat box, so please don't be shy. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to encourage students to read more. All English teachers know that reading is important and that in general, our students don't do enough of it. My name is Will Laschet and I'm an academic consultant and teacher trainer for National Geographic Learning. I've been working in Asia in English language teaching for just over 20 years now. I can see that someone is using the books already. I got that book in your background picture from Ollie. Great, that's excellent. Okay, so back to reading. Why do we read? Okay, so just very quickly into the chat box for me. Can you put a reason? Why do people read? Into the chat box. What do you think? To learn stuff. Thank you, Anthony. Any other answers there? To learn stuff. There's more than that. For pleasure, right? To explore. Freedom, right? Okay, like escapism, for fun. People love reading. Okay, so we've got a lot of different answers there to imagine. Okay, thank you. I'm putting a few of my answers up here, which are similar to the ones that you just gave me. To learn English is one of them. Okay, there we go. So I think we've covered most of those points there. Perhaps a more useful question for us is why don't a lot of students like to read in English? So assuming that they have access to reading materials, I've narrowed it down to, yeah, someone's put there because the teacher told them they have to. I'm going to come back to that, Paul. It's very important. Yeah, I've narrowed it down to 4 things. So I think people or students don't read. Firstly, they might say they don't have enough time, or they don't feel it's a good use of their time. So students often prioritize grammar and vocabulary, memorizing stuff. And when they're not studying, they prefer screen time, as probably a lot of other people do as well. So many people, second reason, just not interested in reading. So it's something they've been forced to do, as we just said, by their parents or by their teachers. And they have no experience or there's no precedence of them reading for pleasure or for enjoyment. And I can understand that. If they're reading things they don't like, of course, they lack motivation. So how do we motivate people to read? Yes, Mabube says, not interested in the content. So in this presentation, I'm using materials from China Showcase Library, which is a series of fiction and non-fiction graded readers meant for self-study for teen or adult learners. And it's from B1 to a C1 CEFR level. It features high interest topics and folk tales. All of the images I'm showing you today are from the China Showcase Library. So another one in the chat box for you. Can you tell me, please, what can you see here? What are you looking at right now? Who knows what this is? It's a dish that has many different meals. Someone, Lisa says ingredients for a meal. Judy says it's a hot pot. Jackie says food, right? Hot pot is exactly right. It has many different names, maybe steamboat, or depending which country you're from, a different word. And this picture is from a reader called Let's Have Hot Pot. And it's a dish that is very important in Chinese culture. So here I'm focusing on food. And the reason for that is that food is, for most people, an inherently relatable and interesting topic. And images of food, or perhaps people enjoying food, provide a hook which draws us in and motivates us to find out more. So one big challenge for teachers of language learners is to get them to read at all, to interest them in reading. So one way to do that is to get them to relate to the material. Have you ever had this kind of meal? Like, when did you have it? Where were you? Okay, who were you with? These are universal questions that everyone can relate to. And the theme is interesting. It's international. It's relatable. So we want to hook our students on reading through interest and create a reading habit that will serve our students well on their English learning journey. So let's look at the importance of interest in reading and in learning in general. So according to Paul Sylvia from the University of North Carolina, when something is interesting, we pay closer attention. We process the information more efficiently, which means we learn more, and we use more effective learning strategies. We use more higher order thinking skills. And finally, when we're interested in the task, we work harder and persist longer. So that means that there's more chance of it becoming a habit because we're trying harder, we're working longer. But we're in education, we already know this. It's intuitive to us that this is true. But you could say, and people do say, that being interesting is subjective. So what is interesting to one person might not be interesting to another person. Well, okay, again, according to Sylvia, interesting things all share 3 characteristics. So to be interesting, they need to be novel. So we need to be introducing something new, okay, or a novel aspect of something familiar. So perhaps you're in Japan and you have had shabu shabu, or maybe you're in Switzerland and you have had a fondue, but maybe you've never had a Chinese hot pot. So this would be something novel to you. It's familiar, but you're looking at it from a different angle. To be interesting, it needs to be complex. It can't be too easy, too simple, but it also can't be too difficult. And this leads on to point number 3, it needs to be comprehensible. So understandability is obviously critical. If we can't understand something, we can't enjoy it. So especially with reading, right? So when these 3 things have been achieved, students will engage with the content. So how do we achieve this? So our experience at National Geographic Learning, it shows us that the following 3 things are also really important. So here we can see a young woman in the chat box for me. How is she feeling? This young lady, how's she feeling there? And why do you think she's feeling like that? She's feeling happy. Why is she feeling? Yeah, she's happy to take her mask off, Anthony. She's smiling. Okay, so she's feeling happy because she's taking off her mask. That's a great answer. Let's have a look. Okay, so she's feeling happy because she's holding a beautiful panda cub. Would you like to hold a panda cub like that? Of course you would, because pandas are cute. And this young lady works in a panda center in China. So people like reading about real people, as you can see on the screen there. We identify with, we empathize with, and we're inspired by other people. So real stories mean that students can go on the internet, they can search for them, they can learn more about them. This image features a National Geographic explorer, Amy Vitale, and she discovered that in order to photograph pandas at the Wolong Nature Reserve in Sichuan, she had to dress up as a panda. She had to make the pandas think that she was one of them. And we can easily search for Amy Vitale pandas online, and we can be inspired by her website, Pandas Gone Wild. And it's not just real people. How about real animals? So this reader is not just about generic pandas being black and white, eating bamboo, okay, which many books about pandas are like. This is about real famous pandas that connect us to their stories. This panda was born in Adventure World in Wakayama in Japan in 2018. And they had a national contest with over 120,000 entries to find a name for this new baby panda. And they finally chose the name Sai Hin. So these authentic non-fiction stories about pandas, they're novel. We know about pandas, but most people don't know the stories behind the pandas. The stories are complex. They feature many different elements about pandas, and they're also comprehensible because these readers are carefully graded with CEFR levels. There are word head count guidelines, so they are accessible and educational to learners at their level. So this reader, Pandas, China's Ambassadors for, is for high, intermediate, or B2 level students. So apart from real people, we also want readings about real places and real things. So this is a photo of Xi'an, which is the capital of Shaanxi province, and it has a 6,000-year history. but it's also a very modern city. So more than 1/3 of the top Chinese software companies have their offices here in this software park. And this reader, Xi'an past and present, it shows the contrast between old and new, which is something that people like to discuss in relation to where they are from. We can personalize this concept. Xi'an, it also hosts one of the wonders of the world. Does anybody know what the wonder of the world in Xi'an is? I wonder if anyone can type that in the chat box. It's very famous. Soldiers, says Rob. You are right, Rob. Someone's typed in Chinese. My Chinese isn't very good. Yes, it holds the Terracotta Army. And the Terracotta Army, they lay buried underground for 2,000 years until it was discovered in 1974. And this army was built to protect the emperor when he died. So we think there may be more than 8,000 of these life-sized soldiers in total. And every statue is different. The face and the clothes of each one is unique, modeled on a real soldier from that time, from Emperor Qin Shi Huang's army. There are also clay horses, clay chariots, and most of the army is actually still buried. So learning about this, hearing about this, would you like to visit there? You know, would you like to find out more about this incredible spectacle of soldiers buried under the earth, protecting their emperor after he's dead? So I know that I would. As Anthony says, it's fascinating, right? A fascinating story. Okay, so we're going to move on now and talk about, I've been talking about non-fiction, okay, but I want to talk about fiction as well. So authentic fiction is what I'm going to call it. And what I mean by authentic fiction is something that is based in history, okay, is based in culture. So I'm going to give you this example, okay? Does anyone know who this character is? I know you do because some of you mentioned it earlier. Does anyone know which novel he is from?
Journey to the West?
Journey to the West is absolutely right. So the Monkey King from Journey to the West. And I remember when I was a kid watching repeats of a Japanese, remember this is a Chinese story, watching a Japanese TV show called Monkey. Anyone around my age or older might remember it. It was made in the 1970s. And I loved it as a kid watching this TV program. And actually, they've just released a new TV program called The New Legends of Monkey, which is produced in Australia and New Zealand. And this is on Netflix. Okay, so this was just released last year. So we can see from that the Monkey King and Journey to the West, they have this incredible lasting global appeal. That it's interesting to people over hundreds of years, and people still interested. And you can see here from the text that the reader does much more than just tell the story. It also explains the context and the history of the story. So again, this is from China Showcase Library, which is co-published by National Geographic Learning and our partner, People's Education Press. And this kind of cultural phenomenon has similarities to the authentic non-fiction I talked about earlier. It's easily searchable on the internet. If you type in Monkey Journey to the West, there's so many resources there, and it encourages student research, independent learning, and independent reading. So whether this is the reading in the reader, if it's on a website, even if it's subtitles on a TV show or a film, it means they're still reading. Okay. So let's see now for the last sort of section, let's see how a character can hook our interest and how tasks can help us understand more. So here is the cover for Monkey King, a Chinese superhero. And I love this title because it immediately brings this ancient story into the here and now. It modernizes it, makes it relevant to now. Superhero films, comics, merchandise, it's everywhere. It's on trend right now. So it's hooking a student in. This reader integrates historical facts with the legend. So it starts by introducing real people. This is Xuanzang. He's a Buddhist monk. He was born in the year 602. Here we have real places. These are the Yulin caves in northwestern China, where the story begins. And some of these are over 1,300 years old. And here we have real things. So this is a painting from inside the cave, hundreds of years old. This is the monk Xuanzang, and he's standing behind a white horse, and you can see a monkey behind him wearing clothes. This monk Xuanzang spent 19 years traveling on a mission to translate the Buddhist scriptures from their home in India into Chinese. And his story became a legend. And amazing adventures with traveling companions were later added. And in turn, these stories became the journey to the West. Here we can see the horse and the monkey king. So Sun Wukong, the monkey king, he was born on a magic stone on the mountain of flowers and fruit. And he was clever and he became powerful and the king of the monkeys. But he was sad because he knew that one day they would all die. Later, the dragons of the sea, they gave him a magic staff which he could make into any size and use as a very powerful weapon, which he kept tucked behind his ear. One day he was summoned by death and taken down into the world of darkness, which was full of demons. And this is what happened. So let me ask you a couple of questions about this. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. So firstly, was Sun Wukong, the monkey king, was he scared of the demon? So in the chat box, what do you think? Was he scared of the demons? So we look for the key word here. He fears nothing, Lisa. You're absolutely right. We can see that he's not at all. And how do we know? Because he began terrorizing the demons. Okay, he's on his own. He starts terrorizing them. Second question, what makes the monkey king angry? Let's see. So we can find the keyword angry. Here we go. What made him angry? So who can find that for me? So he found something in the book of life and death. Yeah, he found out he was only supposed to live for 342 years. So this angered him. So he seized the book and he crossed out his name, made himself immortal. And the last question, how did he leave? Okay, how did he leave the underworld, the world of darkness? We can see here that he fought his way out against death and all of his demons. So this is just an amazing character. So the Monkey King, he went down to the underworld, beat up all of the demons, he cheated death, and then he escaped. So what a fantastic character he is. And even better, in this reader, the story is given with all of the context, all of the background information to learn about the real people, places, and things from the culture that brought this character to life. So what about the tasks? Okay, so skillfully made tasks in a graded reader have several aims. So firstly, they introduce a second purpose. So the primary purpose is to read and enjoy. Second purpose is to find the answers of the questions. And this is useful because it targets the reading. Okay, the task can guide the students to parts of the text that need more attention. And this helps students develop a deeper comprehension. Remember, if they can't understand it, they can't enjoy it. So sometimes, especially for graded readers, they need some help here. And this is what the tasks do. They might miss this without this guidance. And finally, they encourage reflection and critical thinking. So students apply what they have read and they use it to compare and contrast their own knowledge and experience using higher order thinking skills. So here's a good example of a targeted question. At the end of the reader, students are asked to summarize why the novel has been so popular for so long. So it focuses attention on the key elements of the novel. Why is it popular? So we can see one reason here is because of the human element here. And if we look at the other ones, it says here that it's more than just an adventure story. It talks about having psychological and philosophical depth. It's about the human condition. As Lisa mentioned here, if you read in detail, you'll find he's really naughty. And this is the third reason. The reason people love it is because of the character. He has faults, or as Lisa says, he's naughty. But at his core, he is brave, he's loyal. And people empathize with this character. They empathize with his development in the story because he is, in a sense, authentic. He has flaws, but he develops. So these are great discussion points which the average reader would miss without the task. Here are some questions designed to promote critical thinking and reflection. What do you think? Okay, why was he in the painting in the cave? What does it tell us that he's an icon of Chinese culture? And finally, these ones for personalizing about superheroes. A great way to generate interest and to make connections with the content. So these tasks enhance the reading experience without making it into intensive reading. So as my summary, how do we encourage students to read and keep on reading? We need to introduce them to the right materials. Materials need to be interesting and at the right level. And as I said, they need to be novel, complex, and comprehensible. So using reading passages featuring real people, real places, and real things, this helps intrigue students and encourages them to find out more about them. And secondly, encouraging students to research and find out more about the topic using the internet, Wikipedia, YouTube, or whatever. This will give them further exposure to reading for pleasure, and it will help develop the reading habit until it sticks. So these are my 6 content elements that motivate learners to read. Thank you very much for your time. And I believe in a moment we are going to, I'm going to go into a breakout room. And if you would like to join me to discuss any of the ideas here, feel free to join me in the breakout room.
Okay, thank you, Will. Thank you. And yes, it's always great to hear about great books. Okay, and so as Will said, if people want to talk more with Will, want to hear more from Will, can you please go to the breakout room? All the breakout rooms are named under the name of the presenter, so find Will Laschet there. And if you have trouble moving and to the breakout room, yeah, just tell the host. And but before you leave, Will, we have to give you a big round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.